Today we're back with Captain PJ Halloran from Rescue 1 in Somerville, Massachusetts. This episode gets into the heart of technical rescue. The pride, the responsibility, the training, and the humility that it takes to actually be good at this craft. PJ talks about what Rescue 1 means to him, why rope rescue humbled him, why hazmat still feels like the dark arts, and why technical rescue is one of those places in the fire service where you cannot hide behind bravado. You either know the job or the job exposes you. We also talk about leadership. PJ really shares how becoming the captain changed his perspective from being the guy that's going over the edge to being the officer responsible for building the people who can. Then we get into the New England Rescue Collaborative, Rescue Lab, scholarships, regional training, and how one failure eventually turned into something much bigger than the original plan. This one is about building capability, building people, and building a legacy that lasts.
Welcome to the Keep the Promise podcast, where we help build resilient and well-rounded firefighters.
I mean, just the physical workout alone is incredible, but I think it just gives you people talk about mental resiliency, and I there's no better way of proving resiliency than, yes, getting a knee to your face and carrying on.
Dude, it's almost verbatim. All you jiu-jitsu guys and gals say the same thing. I interviewed somebody from my old department, and she basically said the same thing. She's like, really hard to feel down, and it's really hard to not be resilient when you're literally getting choked out.
Yes, yeah.
Like, nothing else matters at that point other than surviving that choke.
You just look up at the clock hoping it goes to zero, or you're going to sleep. I've been there too.
Right.
Is what it is.
Oh, it's getting darker. It's getting darker.
I always say, it's weird. I always have this recurring dream if if someone ever puts me to sleep, Brazilian Christmas. I don't know what it is. It's just maybe Brazilian Santa. Yeah, I don't know. It might just be the hypoxia, but
yeah, it's probably like your brain getting all completely short.
Yeah, I have what is it, CBE now or something, or the CT. Yeah, I definitely have that.
TBD. That's the other Rescue
No,
One
that's
guy.
what I'm using to recover from the
right.
CTE.
And everybody go buy Rescue 1 CBD. Use code KTP for 15% off. You're welcome, John.
Nice.
He better listen to this podcast.
Yes, we better now.
Okay, we're about to dive into the whole Rescue 1 side of things. We've talked about you. We've talked about the culture. We're actually going to get into the real meat and potatoes. And I want to start with almost the personality cult, because I mentioned before, and I try to allude to it as much as I can. Anytime that somebody hears rescue company, and especially Rescue 1, like the name itself has almost like a mystique. Yeah. It has a pride behind it. You think capability. Like, I know my buddies in Rescue 1 in Baltimore City, they are top-notch human beings, top-notch firefighters, like amazing dudes. What does that mean to you personally? Like, you get to wear stuff that says, uncute, right?
Oh, yeah. It's also tattooed on my lower back.
How does that make you feel? Of course it is.
No, man.
Second to none.
Well, that's on my butt cheek. No, I mean, honestly, to me, it means it's a huge responsibility, but I love every minute of it. It really is that. It's sort of the pinnacle of what I think, firefighting it is. And if you've ever read The Last Men Out by Tom Downey, talks about the guys at Rescue 2 back in New York in the early days. And there's a piece in there that really struck me when I read through it, and I highlighted it and go back to it. I talked to it at the beginning of my speech. I go back to it, and it talks about how, he says the men of Rescue 2 were some of the strongest, bravest guys in New York, and how if you were a firefighter in trouble in, some smoky hallway somewhere, the men of Rescue 2 were coming to save you. And on top of that, they were the smartest guys that could rip apart a car, get you out of the East River, and then deal with a nuclear bomb if they had to. And that is just the most amazing thing to me, and that struck me because I truly believe that, and I think that's what it takes.
But to get there, you have to have, like we talked about, a bit of that ego,
yeah,
but also a bit of humility, because some of these tech rescue classes can really humble you.
Oh yeah.
Out of all the ones that you've taken, which one do you think is going to be the quickest one to humble a prospective member, and why? I will tell you mine later.
Oh, come on. We have to wait now. I think in tech rescue, at least for me, it's I think the rope stuff can be very daunting. And for me, early on, it was. And it's a very perishable skill that if you don't practice it or don't know it to begin with, it can be a turnoff. And it is also the basis of many of the other tech rescue components. So you have to be proficient at it. So it is it's a steep hill to climb if you're just looking at it for the first time. Like, now guys are building hybrid skate blocks and all sorts, you're seeing all this stuff on TikTok and they're just like, dude, I can't do any of that. What are you talking about? Like, if you're just starting out, you're like, what is that? What are they doing? But it's one step after another. You just have to continually do it every shift. That's what it takes. Even me, I still, I take a week off or we're doing some other sort of discipline. And I'm looking behind me like, oh man, I got to get back on the ropes because, I like to say that I have rescue dyslexia. It does not come naturally to me. Like I don't have the abstract ability to like see these rope systems and be like, oh yes, like some of these guys are like Rain Men. They're like, yes, I'm going to connect this and put this here. And I'm like, I'm still back unpacking the bag. I'm like, what'd you guys say? So, I'm a different breed.
See, it's funny. For me, it's a total opposite. Like the rope stuff, it clicked.
Yeah.
But the one that humbled me multiple times was Swiftwater.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it is.
I love Swiftwater.
That's why it takes a team, right?
Yeah.
Because you have the dudes that are like half Aquaman, and then you have the rope nerds,
yes,
and you have the hazmat nerds.
Dude, hazmat's the dark arts, man. Like I like
really.
I like. Don't get me wrong. I like to say I'm hazmat curious. I enjoy hazmat. I just don't think we definitely don't do it enough. There's not enough of a push on at least in my department. And I try and I make sure that we are at least looking at it because guess who's going to respond to it? It's us. So we have to know. We have to. That's something that, just stays in my brain.
You gotta send your crew down to CDP if they're still running classes.
So my crew, we're all techs now. So
good.
So that was part of the push. And I was like, man, if we're going to be the rescue, like we have to take this on. So, that's part of the build out process, where we have come from is, half our guys are hazmat techs now. Half our guys are Sprat certified. Like we have come a long way, and it's awesome to see where we are at now and hopefully where we're going.
What's Sprat?
Society Practitioners of Rope Access Technicians. So it's just basically, the guys that climb like windmills. It's like an industrial rope certification, but it's kind of just like I'd say a cool guy cert at this point, but it was actually, I've done rope tech, I've done all that stuff. And we just did Sprat recently this past December, and it was very humbling. There's some techniques in there that we as firefighters and tech rescue don't really train. And this is all, 4 or 5 day course where you are independently graded at the end. And there's kind of that pucker factor, the night before you got this outside person coming in to evaluate, and you're like, oh man, like I got these 6 or 7 skills I have to prove myself on. And it was, it's good, but it's good for you. That's how you progress.
Yeah, that sounds awesome, dude.
Yeah. Especially going as a group, there was like 5 or 6 of us. So, it was a blast.
Yeah. And seeking that training and that knowledge outside of the fire service, outside of this domain, I think it's eye-opening because some of these folks, they're doing that shit almost every single day. They're not waiting for the next rope rescue training. They're out there and, it's almost like a second nature. And it's fascinating watching those experts.
Oh, yeah.
Perform in their field.
Yeah. And these guys, these are just everyday people and that's their job, but they are just magnificent at it. And that's why I think it's important to learn from those people and bring that into our training because in the end, that's who we're going to save. They got into that spot and that's why I said Sprat was so important. I said, look, that's industrial rope access. We are going to rescue that person. So we need to understand industrial rope access to see why they got themselves in that position and how we can get them out. So that was something that we've been driving at as well.
Okay, so now we're talking about high-stakes scenarios.
Yeah.
Right? The industrial rope incident, the trench collapse, the structural collapse, whatever it might be. And I think we've all seen it, that decision-making can really fall apart under those really high-stress situations. A fire is one thing.
Yeah.
Well, MVC is one thing. Those super dynamic, low frequency risk scenarios are different. How do you train your decision-making skills for such scenarios? Because it's not like you can go out and go to the training academy and say, all right, set me up with, a silo engulfment.
Yeah. No, it's, so I'll look at it from 2 sides. One being on the planning or operational side is as the captain, I've had to sort of take I came to the realization that, I'm probably not the guy that's going to be going over the edge, right? I'm probably going to be pulled into that operational or the operations role and sort of advising command of, hey, this is what we need to do. This is what's going to happen. And that early on for me was kind of struck me because, I'm the guy that likes to be out there. And I was very early on in the rescue. I was looking at my skill set and I was like, man, I can't do all this stuff. Like, how am I going to get a company to do it? And it finally struck me that, as the captain, it's not my job to be the guy that goes over the edge. My job is to actually understand and equip my people with the skills that will allow them to do that, so I can, so we can affect that rescue. And that was a moment for me. That was a learning moment. So on that side, my goal is to know what my people are doing and advise on the other side that, hey, we can get this done. We don't have to, whatever crazy plan command comes up with, no, we can make this happen. And there's been some cool moments where we've actually done that. And I was happy to do that. On the flip side, my guys just need to be able to trust in me. And, that goes back to that team concept. And I think we have done a great job in building that camaraderie amongst ourselves and that identity in our crew, which has lent it to, we're not afraid to take anything on.
That is your department approach to tech rescue.
Yes.
But at some point, you said it's time to build something different, something bigger. And you ended up founding the New England Rescue Collaborative.
Yep.
Or the Collab.
The collab.
The Collab.
Yeah.
What led you there?
So
besides ADHD,
Well, okay.
Problems.
Well, you just don't want me to say that and that would be a one-word answer, so that's fair. But no, it was, so, we really had reached out as part of rebuilding the rescue. We started working regionally with different departments, and that sort of got us out of, the funk of just being in the firehouse, dealing with all that crap and people that didn't want to train and whatnot. So we started working with neighbors doing tech rescue, and that was awesome. And so what really happened one day was there's a battleship down in, I believe it's South Carolina, and they do this big tech rescue event every year. And I saw that and I was like, that is really cool. I was like, I'd love to go down and do something like that, but it's super expensive. And I was like, there's no way the department's going to send me down there. And I happened to be driving one day just down south of Boston, and I saw this sign, which I'd probably seen a million times, but it was a sign for a battleship, USS Salem, and that's located in Quincy, Mass. So I started looking it up. I'm like, man, there's a battleship just south of Boston. And I got in touch with the group that runs that. It's like a museum now. So we planned our own regional training exercise on that battleship, and it was just us, a couple other communities, but it was a blast. We had an absolute blast, just doing tech rescue stuff. We were going down in the confined spaces in the ship, and we set up like a high line from the bridge to the bow. And that was sort of where I was behind the scenes putting all the pieces together for that. And I was like, hey, this is pretty cool that this worked out. So I kept doing that on the regional side for our, the Metro Boston team, kept finding some different scenarios to put us in. And, when it came back to the next year, we were back at the battleship, and I actually found us a sponsor who was going to buy us lunch. And I thought that was the coolest thing in the world. And I was like, man, someone's going to buy us lunch. Like, what a scam. I was like, I can't believe this. But and so, the event itself was a little bit bigger, and there was more people there. And again, that ADHD thing kicks in. This is all, I'm not getting paid for any of this. It's just, I love seeing the outcome and seeing the training that comes from it. So it was sort of after that I was kind of like, maybe I should I'm good at being the center access for putting things together. I said, hey, I can take on this role of sort of cultivating this experience and making something good come from it. And why not put my own name on it? And there was very early on, the idea for the New England Rescue Collaborative was actually going to be a spread gym. It was going to be a fixed location outside Boston that, we were going to teach rope stuff, and we were going to invite training vendors to come and use the space. And that was really the collaborative part. Because I've trained all over, and there's a lot of training companies that are down in Connecticut, outside of the region. I said, why don't we bring that here and spread that training around? Ended up losing a couple of the partners that we had originally started with, and it was just me. And I was kind of like, I still want to do something. And I happened to just throw a couple emails out. I linked up with a general manager of a minor league baseball stadium up in New Hampshire. And I was just kind of like, hey, mind if we come do some rope rescue training up in the stadium? And he was like, dude, absolutely. And I was kind of like, oh, okay. So that was where the Rescue Lab was born. And the genesis of that, I literally gave myself 3 months to put that thing together. And that was like, nonstop every single day for 3 months. I don't know why I thought that was a good idea, but I had several training vendors come in. So we had some rope classes, we had elevator, we had swiftwater, and that was exactly what I had been doing on my side, but now just in a regional setting, and it was perfect.
Real quick before we jump back in. Firefighters don't leave each other behind. We look out for our own. Right now, there's a firefighter out there, maybe a rookie, maybe a seasoned veteran, who needs this podcast. They need the lessons, the mindset, and the training tips. But they'll never get them unless you help them. Here's how you can help right now. On Apple Podcasts, tap the 5 stars, then scroll down and write just a few words about what the show has done for you. On Spotify, tap the 3 dots, select Rate Show, and drop your rating. It takes less than 60 seconds, it costs you nothing, and it helps one more firefighter get better, stronger, and more prepared. We look out for each other. This is one small way that you can pay it forward. All right, back to the show. How did the attendees feel about that? What'd you hear afterwards?
Man, I heard great stuff, and I was, obviously I was worried. My name is on this now, and I'm the kind of person where like I see something shiny, and I'm like, dude, I need to buy that for the rescue lab. And like my wife's like, you're not going to make any money. I was like, oh, I'm definitely not making any money, but like I just want everyone to have a great day. And like going into that, I've been to a bunch of conferences. And like, I know what I like to see. So my goal that morning was just, hey, I want people to walk out of here and be like, hey, what a cool day. And that was what I heard afterwards. And I was very excited about that. People were like, hey, like there was a lot of people from the New Hampshire area that like, this is exactly what we need. We don't get enough of this like tech rescue training. Like don't stop, like make it 2 days next year, make it 3 days next year. I'm like, oh my God. All right, at least I'll give myself a year to plan the next one and not 3 months. But everybody walked away with a smile, and that was, that made me happy.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. But here's a real question, and I'll start it with a story. Years ago, my best buddy George and I were doing our like off-duty overtime trench training, and by like 2 p.m. after lunch, we're just bored, right? Trench always devolved into all the experts yelling at each other about how things should be done, and we were in charge of the cut station. And because he and I have combined 2 brain cells, if we're lucky,
you are lucky.
Like a good day when the stars align, we just decided to take a chainsaw and start cutting different sizes of 4x4s and the 6x6. To the point that when they actually needed pieces, we're like, yeah, we don't have that. They're like, no, we need like a 3-foot long piece. We're like, oh, dude, no, we just made a bunch of like door chucks. They're like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, we got bored and we were unsupervised.
Yeah, that's their fault. That's their fault.
Right, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
Looking at it through that lens of straight up, easily distracted firefighters.
Yes.
And now you put them all together in one stadium, and you have all these different scenarios. Like, it could be a zoo or it could be a well-oiled machine. How do you keep it from turning into absolute pandemonium?
That is a great question. That was a fear, how do you, and we had a lot going on that day, but I trusted that the vendors, the training companies were going to put on their best. And I think they did. And that, that is what keeps people engaged. And because I've been to those classes too, where you sort of fade away and, you start wandering and then, you start cutting wood to weird sizes. And, that's not what happened that day, and I'm very thankful for that. I'm thankful for it was the engagement of the people that were there that made it a success. I think it was the people who came and participated. They are what made that day a success.
You also provide scholarships for specialized rescue education, right?
Yeah, so that was
what's that about?
That was an initiative. That initiative started. I've been thinking about that for a while, and that came out of, or the goal of this was to sort of fund that. And I said, I'm very lucky to be in the area that I'm in Metro Boston. We train all the time. I've climbed Ferris wheels. I've done crazy stuff, and like I know how lucky I am to have those opportunities, and it is my goal to spread those opportunities to firefighters that want them but don't have the means to do so, whether their department won't send them or, obviously this training can be very expensive. Tech rescue training, you go to these classes, and I said, if I can help out a little bit, that's awesome. So the New England Rescue Collaborative Foundation was an offshoot, and we just became a 501c3 organization. So that was really cool. And then Thank you. And we sold a bunch of patches and stickers the day of the rescue lab, and like we raised like $500 or $600. And I was like, hey man, like we're gonna pick 2 people, and we're gonna open up the scholarships on our website, and I had a couple people sign up, and I said, all right, pick 2 people, and we're gonna send you to rescue training somewhere. So we're gonna work with our training vendors and get them into class. So, I mean, I'm super excited to get that initiative off the ground. That's really like the basis of what I wanted to do, and that's spread the opportunity around.
Yeah, that's awesome, because you're also building that next generation, and you're almost working on your replacement, if you will.
Yeah, and that's the succession piece in obviously in anything that you're doing is important, because you are building, the legacy of that program. And on the rescue side, just in my department, but in the region, we're building that program for somebody to take over someday. So how are we going to leave that program? And when those people take it over, is it going to be a mess, or did we set them up for success? And that's the goal.
You have ADHD, because not only are you dealing with your stuff at work, right? A captain's job, you got a family, you got after school activities, you got jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
And somehow you also decided to start a podcast.
Yeah, I mean, why sleep?
Why sleep?
Who needs to sleep?
You get a couple like Z's in there, here and there, when they choke you out in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I got the Brazilian Christmas dreams. I'm good.
Tell me about the Rescue Lab podcast.
So that was something that came about. I'm part of the tech on something else here. That I'm on the board for the Mass Association of Tech Rescue Specialists, and that's just an organization that tends to do what I'm trying to do regionally, but for the state. And so from that, we do a lot of events around the state. We've trained at Fenway Park. We also trained at another battleship, and it's a great time to get to network with our regional training partners or tech rescue partners from our regional teams. But with that, and with all the conferences I've gone to and the people I've met, it was a way to sort of document the journey that I'm on, in fact that I meet so many cool people that have different stories, and it intersects with where tech rescue is, not just in the fire service, but around the country and around the world. So, I mean, we've got people lined up that we talk to. I just talked to a structures specialist today from the Army Corps of Engineers. And those guys do all like the structural triage for the FEMA teams. We talked to industrial firefighter tech rescue members. I got a guy lined up from the Disney Fire Department and about how they do tech rescue down at Disney. I mean, it's just anywhere that you wouldn't think to find tech rescue. Like I'm trying to sniff those out. And that really is for the people that don't get to do all the cool, once in a lifetime gigs, because it is so high risk, low frequency. It can be kind of demoralizing, but to hear people's stories of how they train, how they build their teams, and how they, affect these rescues, I think it just gives it lends something to somebody that gets to hear that.
So speaking of those folks, and please give us names.
Yes.
Who are the people in the tech rescue world today that we should be paying attention to?
Oh man. So I just got off one of my probably favorite interviews so far, Logan Ledkins. He's out of Longview, Texas. And he was, if you remember the story of the 900-foot tower rescue with the balloon that crashed into the tower, he was sort of the operations guy for that. And his story was unbelievable, and what they did in building their teams out was nothing short of spectacular. And why, obviously that was a great story, but what made me reach out to him in particular, or their department, was I remember seeing the story on the news. I was like, wow, that's really cool. But they interviewed one of the rescuers after, and he said, hey, he's like, I'd really like to thank our training chief for supporting our tech rescue program and effectively letting this rescue happen. And I think I did a double take, because I was like, man, I've never heard that before. So that was of interest, and that really is what made me reach out. But it's guys like him that are pushing the boundaries every day. Like, hey, we're training every day, and that's just it. You got to be in that mindset. I just met. Well, obviously I have to mention Josh now. It'd be weird, But that's something cool that came out of this, in the sense that, like, on the collab side, not even the podcast side, like meeting the people I've met along the way so far from the podcast or from the collab side, like that has been one of the coolest parts of this whole journey, is just meeting new people, meeting like-minded people. That is the most important thing in the networking that happens on the tech, not even the tech rescues. Obviously, Josh is like a hose nerd. He's definitely a hose nerd. Now he's a Vulcan nerd, but meeting people that bring the same energy to not only tech rescue, but to their jobs in general is what keeps us going. And that's ultimately the most important thing.
When you finally hang it up, when the last shift comes in and it's time to retire, what do you hope that people say you helped build? Let's talk about legacy.
Yeah. On the department side, I've personally seen the change, the shift in attitude in how the rescue has been received. And I think I hope that continues to build. I don't know where my fire department journey is going to take me. I have no plans of leaving the captain spot right now just because I'm having a great time. But obviously all things don't last forever. So who knows, maybe I get promoted or whatever. But I hope that whoever takes over just realizes the work that it took to get us to that point and continues on and just brings and pushes that, the rescue forward. That's really what I hope in that sense. And whether anyone remembers me or not, I could give two craps because they're going to be like, oh, that asshole. I remember that guy. But on the rescue side, I just hope the legacy of the program lives on. That's what I want.
Hell yeah. Perfect closing question, and one that I'm hoping to catch you off guard. What is the one failure that you cherish the most?
The one failure I cherish the most. I think the most recent one would be setting out to start that Sprat Gym. We were so hell-bent in opening that up, and there was a lot of excitement. And we were probably at the 1 yard line with getting this thing going. I mean, we were looking to sign legal documents. We were ready to go, and that it just sort of imploded. And I did look at that as a failure, and I was bummed out. I remember my wife was like, what's wrong with you? I just feel like, sort of a dream had died. But I think as all things happen as they should, this is what came from that. The Rescue Collaborative came from that. The Rescue Lab and the New England Collaborative came out of that. And I think that is the way it should have been. And that failure led to this. And I think it's just starting. I think the journey for the Rescue Collab is really in its infancy, and I'm super excited to see where it goes next.
I'm excited to have you on again in a year or so to see where things have gone.
I hope so, and I will have a back full of tattoos by that point.